Hello, everyone. I'm Linda Harrison, a professor of early childhood education at Macquarie University and adjunct professor at Charles Sturt University. I'm delighted to be speaking to you at the 2022 Early Childhood Voices Conference, and I'm looking forward to viewing many of the wonderful presentations that will be available. In Australia, we have a tradition of acknowledging the ongoing custodianship by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples of the lands where we work. I want to begin this talk by acknowledging the traditional owners of the Macquarie University and Charles Sturt University lands, the Darug and Wiradjuri peoples, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I also want to acknowledge my colleagues who collaborated with me on the research projects I will be speaking about in this presentation. Findings I am sharing would not have been possible without their insights and expertise in working with children and educators to gather and analyze a large collection of drawings. In preparing this talk, I wondered, what is it about drawing that is so absorbing? Me, I always want to have a pencil in my hand in a meeting and combine my note-taking with doodling and pattern making, as shown in this image. I was listening to the conversation in a meeting, but my hand was creating something else altogether. Similarly, children use many opportunities to make marks from a very young age. The topic, learning from and with children through drawing, opens up many possibilities. I will only touch on a few of these, but in my experience, they can be grouped into two broad categories. Drawing as a product, that is the completed image of a drawing, and drawing as a process, that is the thinking, actions, and doing of drawing. Each of these two categories is informed by a diverse range of theoretical underpinnings. Starting with theorizing drawing as a product, drawing has been studied and used in studies of development, typically based on a picture produced by the child in response to a specific task. For example, the draw a person task codes the drawing according to the accuracy of the figure, which is then used as an indicator of intellectual development. There are many different tasks that have been developed or reasons for asking a child to produce a drawing in research. Another example is the draw a scientist task. That has been used to assess children's understandings of role and gender identity. The second approach, theorizing the drawing process, focuses on the act of drawing as a learning process in itself. Children practice and theorize and develop the manipulative and creative skills of drawing. That is one area of theoretical underpinning, is the development of drawing itself. New theorizing has emphasized the links between drawing and thinking, the process of representing ideas and making meaning in a visual two-dimensional form. The dynamic nature of drawing can capture thinking as it happens in the moment and as it changes over time. In this section, I will share examples of studies that have focused on the category of drawing as a product. The task that we asked of children was to draw themselves with their teacher at school. Children in these studies were in kindergarten, first year of school. And this drawing task was introduced after a series of tests and short questions about school and about the teacher. The aim of the research was to include children's perspectives on adjustment to the first year of school, which in previous studies had been based primarily on teachers' reports. Drawing provided a way for children to express their feelings about the teacher through representation. We used an analytic approach to analyze these studies, these drawings. We used an analytical approach that had been developed to study child-family relationships through drawings. The coding system focused on signs, symbols, and markers of emotional well-being in the child's relationship with the teacher. We observed differing levels of pride, pleasure, security, and happiness in children's drawings. These were evident from these signs and symbols and markers. For example, the image on the left received a high score for happiness and pride, based on specific markers such as smiling, closeness in the positioning of the child and the teacher, and the depiction of fully formed, grounded figures. In contrast, the image on the right of a child with her two teachers received a low score for pride and happiness, based on markers such as incomplete, floating figures with distorted body parts. Another dimension in this scoring system for emotional well-being was emotional distance, which is indicated by separation and barriers between the figures, as well as limited or negative facial expression. These two drawings again differed. The image on the left received a low score for emotional distance because the figures were close and holding hands. In contrast, the image on the right has many signs of separation between the child and teacher. The child is behind a large, solid desk. The teacher is leaning away, and the teacher also has no facial expression. These two and 4 other coding dimensions provided an overall score for negativity in the child-teacher relationship. These overall scores were based on ratings of vulnerability, separation, tension, and negative feelings that were evident in the drawings. We then conducted a second study that tracked the development of child-teacher relationships and the quality of those relationships by interviewing children at the beginning and the end of their first year of school. We collected drawings at both of those times and found that over half of the children depicted a very similar relationship with both time points. Further, 15% showed an improved relationship, as is illustrated in the two drawings by this child. The image on the left, where the tree separates the child and teacher, received a higher score for emotional distance and negativity than the picture on the right, where the child and teacher are close to each other. This study also showed that there were marked differences between the children's perspectives on their relationship with the teacher and how teachers rated the relationship on a scale of closeness and conflict with the child. We then included a follow-up study in year 6 and were able to show long-term influences and the importance of including children's voices in studies of school adjustment. We predicted social and learning problems and strengths and students' feelings about school from their drawings and teachers' ratings in kindergarten. Bold text in the table shows that how children depicted their relationship with the teacher in kindergarten was a stronger predictor of year 6 outcomes. In fact, what we felt from this was that the results suggest that how the teacher feels about their teacher is more important for their success at school over time than how the teacher in the kindergarten year feels about them. In the next section, I'm introducing another example of drawing, this time drawing thought of as the process of drawing. The task in this case for the child was to draw yourself talking with someone. That was the starting point for interviewing the child about the drawing. The aim of this research was to understand how children who were diagnosed with speech sound disorders experienced talking. The child completed the drawing. The researcher in this case, asked a series of questions. Who was in the drawing? How do you know this person? Where are you in the drawing? What are you or they doing? Encouraging the child to discuss an image that they had drawn. Talking about the picture provided deeper insights into the event and the process of talking with someone. It could be a real or an imaginary person or group. For example, the child on the left describes talking with a friend, and the child on the right describes talking with imaginary friends and feeling different when talking with real people. We used focal point analysis to identify what was emphasized by the child, and included the signs and symbols children used in their drawings, but also what they said about the drawings. In these two pictures, for example, we see details of how the process of talking and listening expressed and described by children. They include ears and spoken words in their pictures. They show the child leaning close to the person that they're talking to or listening to. And these examples give clear indications of what the children experienced and understood about talking with someone. Summary of the focal point analysis and the meanings that were distilled from children's explanations from children's and pictures is shown on this slide. Importantly, the study included other sources of data provided by the child that we used to confirm our focal point interpretations. Talking with children with speech sounds disorders has shown that they are able to depict and describe the processes and their experiences of talking with others. This work underlines the value of incorporating drawing as part of speech and language clinical assessments, and the potential for including the child's voice when setting goals and treatment plans. In this third section, I present another example of drawing as process. 2022 update of the approved learning frameworks for Australia provided an opportunity for including children's ideas about their learning in the early childhood education and care and outside school hours care settings that they attended. The views of children and young people, along with families, educators, teachers, and service providers, were critical for confirming the need for the updates and for informing the recommended changes to these updates. The aim of the project then was to acknowledge children as key stakeholders whose views are valued and important for effective policy change. The project also acknowledged the key role of educators and teachers who work in early childhood and school-age care settings. Study design provided them with opportunities to gather children's voices in a variety of ways, including the draw and talk activity as a group or an individual activity. Members of the research team developed an animation so that children and young people could be well informed about how their voices mattered and how their views would help to shape and it updates learning frameworks. The animation was also a useful support for educators who could share it with children and then invite them to draw and discuss ideas about their learning. That were suggested as prompts are shown on this slide. The next slide shows some of the drawings and verbal descriptions written by a child or transcribed by the educator about the activities that they like to do, coloring and painting, for example, playing and making things, Rubik's cubes, and the things that they would like to do, a slide, for example, in their early childhood settings. Children's work also emphasized in their drawings the importance of relationships with family and friends and with their teachers. Children also documented their own learning, as shown in these two images. On the left, the child has drawn and talked about their own appreciation and confidence in their physical skills. On the right, we see the child's awareness of environmental sustainability, learning to look after the river and the animals and the importance of that. With the support of their educators, hundreds of children contributed their ideas through the draw and talk activities. Work was analyzed by the research team for content and themes. What the children and young people told us was reviewed in relation to the vision, principles, practices, and learning outcomes of the approved learning frameworks, and used to inform the recommended updates for the two of them, the Early Years Learning Framework and My Time, Our Place, the framework for school-age care. In conclusion, in this presentation, I have sought to illustrate a progression in the purposes that have informed studies that gather and analyze children's drawings. However, regardless of purpose, all of these studies depended on the guidance and thoughtful engagement of an adult researcher, assessor, or a familiar teacher or educator who respected the child as the creator and owner of the work and the ideas that the work expressed. In thinking about this work and this presentation, I ask you to reflect on how children's perspectives about what matters to them can reframe how educators and health professionals support children's learning, development, and well-being. Drawings are a vehicle for children to produce and share their knowledge and experiences. By providing their drawings as data, children enter into a partnership with researchers who then have a responsibility to respectfully and responsibly report and promote their voices and their views about the things that affect them and their future. Thank you for listening. Wish further information about anything that's been shared in this presentation, please contact me directly or via ResearchGate to